My name's Reese Starling. I'm a senior here at St. George's. I've been doing art for as long as I can remember, and I'd say it's the biggest part of my life.
Can you talk about your art a bit more?
Um, I don't know where to start. This is always a tough question because I feel like I'm not one of those important artists. I just do it when I feel like it. Um, I guess I can talk about what mediums I'm drawn to. Usually, I use pencil. That's like my comfort medium, I'd say. Um, in fact, like with my 2D portfolio, I struggled a lot with. I needed to do like a professional kind of medium. I wanted to do paint, but I wasn't the best at it. So I ended up my whole portfolio there ended up being just in graphite. Um, I mean, that's what most of my sketchbook is. Usually, it's of people as well. I'm not the kind of artist that draws like geometry or like architecture and stuff. I wish I could, but people draw me more, like the emotions they hold or the stories that are written in them. I like capturing that in my artwork.
How did you start drawing?
Um, the earliest thing I can remember of doing art was one day. It was in my apartment. I was probably 4 or 5. That was like my earliest memory. And my little sister was napping. I remember like sneaking away from nap time and going to the dining room table, like getting all the supplies, like sneaking into like the cabinet I wasn't supposed to go to, getting the watercolors. Because it was like the messy stuff, like I wasn't allowed to use that. Um, and I like put it all out on the table, and I like found one of my favorite stuffed animals at the time, which was the very hungry caterpillar, if you know that story. I just was drawn to like the colors, and so I just started painting it, and that painting still hangs like in my house. That was the first time that like I was just drawn, like I was like, I really like that and I want to put it on paper. And I guess it wasn't like a mature thought like that at the time, obviously, but just from then on, I was always like the class artist or like the family artist, just the person that I was just deemed the artist of whatever group I was in.
What about the future? What about the future?
Like my future as an artist.
Yes.
Um, well, I'm hoping in college to major in art history and minor in fine arts. I mean, all through middle school, I was so set on being an artist when I grow up, like just making that my living. But as I've gone through high school, I found so many other passions as well, especially in the humanities. I love writing, I love stories, and I love history. So I'm trying to combine my two interests into one through art history. Um, so that's what I'm hoping to do in college. And then hopefully, like, I don't want my life to depend on my art. Sorry, I keep touching the microphone. I don't want my like to work. I don't want my work life to ruin how I feel about art.
So you envision yourself as like a more like an art dealer than an artist in the future?
Yeah, I think so. I think I want my art to be for me rather than like focusing on selling it and like making a living out of it. I feel like connecting that stress with what makes me happy will make me slowly start to hate it. And that's my biggest fear. I want to keep I maybe a side hustle, but I don't want that to be all I depend on. Um, and there's so many other parts of myself that I also want to speak to in my career. Um,
Being a businessman in art, so what do you think is a standard of a good piece of art? Or is there a standard?
what makes art? I'm not sure. It's such like a broad question. Everyone has their own definition of it.
What's your definition?
Um, Sorry, I'm trying to think.
No, don't worry.
It has to make you feel something, for sure. Maybe that's a basic answer, but if I go to a piece of artwork and I don't feel anything when I see it, then I can't consider it truly art. Or there has to be some emotion put into it. It has to have some kind of connection to the human soul, I feel like. It can't just be,
Do you think abstract paintings connect you to the human soul?
personally, they don't connect me, but I feel like for the artist, that's a connection to their soul. So that's considered art. And for me, then I can consider that art,
Do you
even
think
though I don't get like an emotional feeling out of it.
Do you think abstract paintings are more like a business or more of art? You're an art dealer in the future, so you
Yeah,
should know.
I do feel I feel like those aren't the kind of artworks I'm drawn to personally, but I do see the emotion put into them, the hard work put into them, and I do see why. They definitely are kind of a money grab, I would say. Um, they're just not the artwork that I'm drawn to personally.
Yeah, there's like those abstract paintings, I don't see how hard work is put into them.
Like the splatter ones,
Yes.
I never understood like what the excitement with them was. I guess they say there's like a strategy to how you use splatter, but like I feel like I could make that too.
So yeah, since that is art, so how do you think we should draw a line between like a piece of garbage and a good piece of art? Like if I go in a museum and I shit in the museum, like is that art or is that just
It could be an act
not
of
being nice?
protest, which is
Could it be art?
maybe if it's done in a rage. If it's done in an act of protest, then perhaps. But if it's just done like, oh, I want to take a shit here, so I'm going to shit in the museum, then no. Does that make sense?
What do you think is going to happen in the future to our art trend?
I feel like there's so much use of AI and like there's this incline towards technology. AI art is on such a high rise right now. I know a lot of artists are enraged for that. I'm enraged by that. I don't find that to be true art because, like I said, I deem it has to hold the human soul, human connection. And if it's created by a machine, you just plug in a prompt. Unless you use that to create your own original piece, I can't see AI art as real art. And I feel like with the art world kind of being inclined against AI art, that disconnection, maybe they'll lean toward more towards like human representation in art, like in the Renaissance where there was like that.
We're going back to the Renaissance.
Not to bring it up, like that's the era that every person hates talking about, but that's what I've learned.
And we're in a stupid class of it.
That's like at the front of my mind. But there's that the glorification of like God's creation, like where there's the study of the human body and like it's in every artwork you see of the Renaissance is usually of a person, some kind of figure. I feel like there could be a redirection towards that in the art world as they start to feel disconnected from like other people with like, sorry, I like lost my train of thought, but
What you said was a very accurate prediction. Like
everyone just feels so disconnected right now. Like technology is really dividing us, I feel like. And so I feel that there's just going to be that want for more human creations.
if on the perspective of like a collector, what a technology creates is equivalent to what you're describing as human input, then why should it matter if we use technology or a human?
I guess it's a personal thing. Because I know over the summer I attended the Sotheby's Art Institute. So it was like a week and a half, 2 weeks that I spent in New York City. We stayed at Pace University and we got to see all these different sites. Like we got to go to the Met, we got to go to oh my gosh.
MoMA,
Yeah.
Guggenheim, right?
We didn't get to go to the Guggenheim. I was so upset about that. We got to go to Columbia's like behind the scenes collection. They don't have a museum. It's like their personal collection. So we got to get all this behind the scenes, and there was a lot of discussion of AI art. In fact, we had some art world professionals, dealers, artists themselves. There was this panel, and they were people that were directly involved with AI art, AI artists and dealers that were selling digital art or like NFTs. Yeah. And there was this huge outrage from the people, including myself, in the program, because we're all people so connected to art, artists ourselves, and we were basically just being told to like embrace AI art because that's like the advancement of the future. Like how when the internet became a thing, everyone was like, this is going to be the next big thing, so you should embrace it. But I don't feel that way towards AI art. I feel like AI can be used for good things, but it's being used for the things that make us human rather than the nitty gritty tasks that take us away from our human experience. In fact, they were like, it was so strange, but they were just, especially with the environmental issues with AI too. Every time you use like ChatGPT, the equivalent of like multiple bottles of water being wasted or like,
What?
yeah. Every time like you type in a prompt to ChatGPT, there's so much water loss or this.
What does
I
that
don't
mean?
know. Like there's a lot of environmental issues with it. It increases your carbon footprint.
I don't get it. Okay, I believe you.
I can bring up my
Increases.
sources, but right now I can't quote it directly.
Yep.
But it was just them encouraging us to kind of fall away from traditional art and just move towards artificial art. I found that kind of heartbreaking.
Do you think that kind of originates from artists' envy of the ability AI can do?
Perhaps, especially people who don't feel artistically inclined. Now it makes art more accessible, but I feel like art is has always been accessible. All you just need is pencil and paper. Not even there's so many materials you can use, and it just takes practice and passion. If you lack that connection and the creativity, then yes, it's not accessible to you.
But since AI art is so strong nowadays, do you think on the bigger picture, like our protest as artists is going to be effective?
I feel like it could be. I really feel like there's going to be a drift away from AI art eventually, especially obviously in the art world. Maybe it's more of a hope. Maybe that's not realistic, but because it is an innovation, it is on the rise. But I honestly don't see it being long lasting.
I once tried to interview a artist, and he is just doing art only by AI. He did graduate from like a very prestigious art institute in China, but he chose to do AI art, and I think he's holding exhibitions. And the effect AI can generate is like it's equivalent, or sometimes like it can mimic a lot of the styles from artists, and it just creates like a very good AI art in general. So I don't know.
Maybe it depends on the intention in which you use it. If, like, still going off of what I define art as, if you're putting your passion, creativity, and emotions into the prompting and manipulating it,
So it becomes a writing task.
maybe. But writing is also a form of art.
What do you think is the difference between literature and art?
Like,
Visual
it's
arts?
visual art.
Yes.
I feel like visual art, it says what you can't say with words. Depending on what I'm feeling, I choose whether I want to write or I want to draw. For example, sometimes I'll write what's on my mind. And I'm inclined towards symbolism. I love symbolism in my artwork and my writing. So when I write poetry, for example, I
Wow.
love putting I don't like saying directly what I'm feeling or what it represents. I like it being represented through something indirect. So there's like, it's like, because when I read poetry, I love the adventure of it where you have to decipher what they're saying. And I like that in my artwork as well. So I think whenever I can't find the words to express what I'm saying, I draw it. And whenever I can't visualize it, I write it.
Do you think the concepts and symbolism behind a piece of art is way more important than the visual effect of a piece of art?
Could you repeat it one more time?
Like, how do you weigh between like the visual effects and the concepts and symbolism behind it?
Like find that balance. So
Like,
it's,
which one do you weigh more?
oh, I guess I don't think too long about how I want to symbolize it. especially when it comes to my visual pieces. I'm trying to think more of my recent artworks, which was my portfolio. And my main symbolism there was the greenery. It was a grayscale. All of them were grayscale. They were done in pencil, but each one contained leaves and vines, which were done in colored pencil. And that represented femininity, natural femininity, which it makes more sense if you see it. But when I was going into my portfolio, there were so many things that I wanted to say about I wanted to talk about my identity as a woman, a Latina woman, a queer woman, raised in a household of women. That's such a big part of who I am. And there's a lot of struggle that comes with it. Maybe, obviously, other people have more struggles, but with today's world and atmosphere, it was something that I really felt in the moment, and I needed to finally put it on paper. So the symbolism there was just the constraints of society when the vines were restraining against the figure in the artwork, or the natural female spirit, which I guess you wouldn't realize unless I told you, but there I didn't want to, it wasn't something I could say. It fully had to be through symbolism, I felt like. So I guess there I weighed symbolism more than the concept, but.
Well, honestly, when I do my paintings, a lot of the time I start not knowing anything, and then I like just randomly paint stuff. Like I've been doing a lot of surrealism. I really paint them randomly, and I don't think, because it's very abstract. And then at the end, by looking at what I've painted, I kind of come up with a meaning for the audience.
Yeah. That's like.
But it sounds like you actually planned them.
Yeah, I remember talking to Mr. Hansel last year, and he hated how much like planning I put into my artwork, because I overthought it so much, I guess. Especially with my portfolio. I guess it meant so much to me. I really wanted to make sure that it was done perfectly. I was such a perfectionist with it. And it wasn't until I embraced that, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just need to get it out, that I was finally able to do it.
In terms of, like, forms or ideas?
Both. I wanted to showcase my skills properly. I wanted it to seem like actual art, I guess, or like.
What's actual art?
I know. That's actual art in the eyes of other people. There's so many. Maybe not actual art. That's not the right term for it. Well, I mean, good art, which is usually defined as it has to be like realistic, needs to be clean, needs to be perfect. A representation directly of life, like abstract, is usually not seen as good art by the common people. Usually. It's so like there's so much contradiction in it. But I remember when I was doing my thumbnails and planning the portfolio, I kept redoing it again and again and again, because it didn't feel right yet. I do so many I can't just go to a canvas and just start painting. I need to have some kind of pre-sketch.
I thought courage is really important in art.
I guess not with me.
When I go to a museum, I usually start by looking at the art pieces, and the last thing I look at is like the description, if it has one. So I personally think that the visual effects is really what matters, because a lot of times I think artists, and especially student artists, try to express some of those like very broad and sounding like deep identity problems, but I don't, like, I think it's already been done too much that it's like a common process. So I think like what defines in my opinion, defines a good piece of art is more on like how visually it's interesting and how much power it brings to me instead of the story behind it. Because most of the time when I look at a painting, I don't really get what the artist is trying to say, but I can feel the power.
Yeah, I know when I do the same thing where I try to get a sense of what the artist is trying to say through the work. So I'm looking at the visuals, I'm enjoying how the aesthetics of it, but I guess I'm always searching for what's trying to be said, which I know is different than like my other artist friends. So
Yep. Thank you.